Hi, good afternoon, everyone. We are live now, and I have Mr. Wakas with me. Let's Wakas, let's wait for another minute, and let's give some time for everyone to join, and then we'll start. All right.
Sure, sir.
Right, thank you. Well, we have a very strong presence today. That's wonderful. Wakas, you can actually share your slides, right?
Yeah, I have
Please
shared.
do that. So what we're gonna do is basically for the interest of everyone. Hi, Mr. Ashton, how are you? So I will actually just leave my portion of the slides towards the end. So once you're done, then I'll start from here. And so just to give you some background to everyone, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. We have Mr. Mia Vakas with us. He's one of a very famous, very expert HR professional. He's also a clinical psychologist. He works within our team, at SA Consultants, heads and leads the training and development area as well. So a wonderful guy, and we felt that why can't we actually have a session with him and see how he actually can bring some value to our IFA members. And just for the sake of, for the interest of everyone, we have been actually conducting these smaller webinars for a while now. A lot of people have enjoyed these kind of short and crisp and very straightforward, webinars. And please do not forget to claim your attendance certificate, after this event. And yeah, let's start.
Sure. Thank you so much, sir. Uh, Hello, everyone. Good evening. I'm truly delighted to welcome you all to this webinar. Starting from my introduction, my name is Mia Mohammed Wakas. I serve as a head of human resource at SA Consultants. I'm also a certified HR leader with expertise in consultant clinical psychologist. So today we are going to discuss about in today's fast-paced world, discussions are often made under pressures, influenced by assumptions, emotions, and incomplete information. So in today's session, we are going to learn that how we unpack evidence-based decisions. There are four pillars which help us to make an evidence-based decisions. So in today's webinar, we are going to learn how to have the scientific research, organizational data, professional judgment, and stakeholders with all these things. Also, we are going to talk about the cognitive skills that behind critical thinking, reasoning, reflecting, how it will help us to build our confident and make a final decision. So let's move towards the slide. My slides are visible.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
If you can please, because we can only see the your next slide. Can you please? Yeah, that'll be good.
Okay.
Perfect.
Starting, as you know, our topic is critical thinking, making evidence-based decisions. Starting with the why critical thinking matters in decision making. So here we have 3 points like objective analysis. Like when critical thinking enables the object analysis, where we have different situations, that situations allow us to question assumptions and evaluate multiple perspective for concluding. If we don't have the object analysis, then maybe that thing will be difficult for us to evaluate or for like concluding to some decision or that thing. Second one is like reduce errors. The critical thinking will help us to reduce errors. Like if we have an example in an organization, there are many of we have many challenges in daily basis. So how we reduce that challenges or that errors? So when we have a misinformation or miscommunication with our colleagues or members, then that will leads us to trust issues. When we have a trust issues, that will lead us to unreliable outcomes. So that reduced errors will help us to leading towards the more reliable outcomes. Then also improved policies, like here we have an example. For example, federal employees using critical thinking can drastically improve public health. So what we get from that, that federal employees, if they are not going to think critical, then maybe they don't have any health policies. They just have haphazards of policies. So that will be make issue in their daily management processes. Next slide, like what is evidence-based discussion decision making? So, as we are talking about the major topics, CIPD highlights four evidence sources. The first is scientific research, that we must know from where the information comes from. Then organizational data, professional expertise, and stakeholder values. So these are the four key evidence sources which will help us to which will help us in making decision on evidence base. So moving forward, we also have a four pillar that I will discuss. Like first one is scientific research. We're explaining some more on this, like utilizing validated data. As I told you that we just must have correct and proven data, which will support or decision when we are going to make any decision. Organizational data, like leveraging internal metrics, performance things, and context outcomes within our organization or anyone's organization. Professional judgment, like incorporating the valuable experiences, expertise, must have seasoned practitioner to provide practical insights. Stakeholder input must be there, like considering the values, preference. The most important thing in any organization are values. If we are not going to value others like ideas or others words, then there will be consequences, like we must face the consequences. So for that purpose, we must value our colleagues or employees or our partners. So moving next, uh, the cognitive skills. That's very important. We have four like major things in behind the critical thinking. First one is reasoning. We must reason when we have any problem or any when we face any challenges, then we must reason that ability to logically evaluate. We must evaluate that problem, that where should that problem comes or arises. Then reflection. We must have knowledge of that problem, and the self-awareness of personal biases and assumptions that will help us, like allowing for more objective assessments of information. Then we have skepticism, healthy questioning claims, proactive approach, verification, ensuring accuracy and reliability, open-mindedness. That is very important point. Like consider alternative explanations, must be open to new questions, and try to end it with like open-ended questions. We must have different people with different perspectives. So we must ready for that also. Then there are two real world examples. One of them are like public health. We are on daily basis, we face different challenges. In public health, imagine a federal health official meticulously analyze pandemic data. If there are not an accurate information, they don't have an accurate data, then there must be a problem in decision making. If I am saying that in nowadays many of psychology organizations do that, they are making the research that what is the effect of the pandemic on the mental health of any individual. So if they have not the accurate data, then there will be a lack on the decision making. Meanwhile, it's the same in workplace policies, like consider HR professionals who using evidence-based practices, develop policies, generally improve workplace well-being. If we don't have like well-developed policies or some policies that are very strict. So that will affect our workplace culture, and our employees are also affected by that. So the result is a landscape of more effective, ethical, and transparent decisions that powerfully serve both public and organizational interest. So next, we have some common barriers, and how do we overcome them? So far, the very first, cognitive biases. So like we don't let the biases affect your or someone else's decision. Be vigilant and always listen to the different viewpoints and question your assumption, so that will bring you the more knowledge, and you will be more confident while making any decisions. Then don't rely on stories or authorities information, or don't absorb too much information, so that information lead towards the mess. So try to absorb logical and relevant information about that thing that you strategic solutions. Implement training, train your staff, train your organizational technical staff, and
I think we kind of lost Mr. Vakas. Let's just wait for a minute and then let's see if we can actually connect back. Am I audible? Can somebody please confirm if I'm audible? Okay, that's brilliant. Okay, so that means I'm connected, but Mr. Vakas lost. So I would, yeah, I can let's just like let me just connect my slides. No, it's not stopped. There was some issue with Mr. Vakas. I think he's back now. Yeah, Vakas, you're on mute.
yeah. Hello. Sorry, everyone. Actually, there's some
No,
electricity
that's
issue.
okay. You can reconnect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think there's a similar problem again. Well, I think it's better that no. So what I'm gonna do is basically I'm gonna connect my slides and one second. Here we have. Wonderful. Great. So before we start in, I think so my focus was mainly on the accounting side, of course. My focus was that I would not actually be very, I'm sorry, I think I need to reconnect on the slides. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my screen. Yeah, here it is.
Yeah, sorry.
Great. So, no, that's okay, Vikas. I think your internet is not working. So let me just start my
Yeah,
slides
actually,
instead of wasting the time of
sure.
the attendees. So, like my focus is going to be, of course, more on the accountants side, and this is really important to understand that this topic is really important for all the accountants as well. Generally, the accountants are built for like numbers, analysis, analytics, measurement. Like having the advanced skills of the doing things on a very different scale, doing things on a very different level. And based on my experience of almost like 20 years now, when like I've learned not only just the accounting skills, which include the debits and the credits and like other stuff. But of course, you need to have multiple level of skills, which includes uh, your personality, your skill set, which has to show that you are the right person, a right personality for the organization to add value, to grow together, to add value to their like journal goals, and to improve the overall organization's performance. So we like I personally think that this whole topic brings that value to everyone, and this is really important to understand that why critical thinking, which makes it really important that like you are not only just going to make the decisions for the organization, which are not only just the financial decisions. Given that the recent improvements, given the recent change in the overall environment, and especially in our profession, by the way. And I humbly have the this important. I personally believe that accounting profession requires more than this. It requires it requires more than just to be an accountant now. AI is there, everybody knows. And for example, we were actually recently having a discussion within our organization that why don't we actually just use the AI agents to actually improve the quality of work, and to actually expedite the quality of work and expedite the work onto a level where our accountants, which actually do the data entry, it will be then replaced by the data entry to this thing, which will actually help our accountants to do work really quickly. So that means your focus being an accountant is not only going to be on a level where you were used to do the data entry, but of course it is going to be improved, and it is going to be moved to from one stage, from one level to another level. And this is really going to be important. And I remember that when we used to go for the stock takes, we used to go for doing things physically. Now everybody's using the like drones. They're using the like AI agents. They're using so many different like system generated programs, AI programs to actually do the audits. So critically, like you just need to understand your thinking, your analysis, and you being an accountant, not just an accountant now. It is going to be far more important than what we used to be. By the way, I used to be, or my colleagues used to be at that time. So let me just jump into this like important topic now, and what we are going to cover. So this is really important to understand. Our focus is going to be not only on this level, where we are going to talk about that why critical thinking. Of course, I have actually included some really important aspects, and you need to understand those as well. So what critical thinking is, I'm going to actually focus really quickly on this. Why accountants need it. This is really important for us to understand that why accountants need this important skill. The like cognitive biases, so traps in the financial decision making. So when you are actually focused on the financial decision making, this is really important to understand that how you get trapped within these important aspects. The next part is the evidence based framework. Then we have the real world problems and solutions. I've tried to actually just pick and choose some of the really important like real world problems. There are some recommended resources. I'm going to actually share those from my side so that you can actually quickly build up some knowledge around that. Then building a culture, which is actually really important, that how you actually just foster, like this whole inquiry system within your team. Then we'll of course have like important section of question answer session with Mr. Vakas and myself, and there we go. So let's jump into the next important part. So what is critical thinking? This is really important, actually. The objective analysis and evaluation of an issue in order to form a judgment. I'm not a fan of reading through the definitions here, but I honestly used, like this slide to understand that there are four important, really important aspects. The first one is the analysis. Now, when I say analysis, I used to actually define it in a very different way. So, for example, if I would say, can you actually break down your problem? Can you break down your complex financial data into some understandable parts? So I'll give you an example. For example, like in the morning, if you leave for your office and you quickly just think that you have a problem, and that problem is that you want to reach to office. I'm sure it's a good problem to have, of course. But when you have to reach office, how do you actually think that it is going to actually help and it is going to work? So you need to understand what are the ways you can actually reach to office. Either it can be a public transport, it can be like a carpooling, it can be like some other way or transportation way. So you're trying to actually analyze your position. Do you have like the car available at that time? That car has the like fuel in it. The gas is filled in it. Is there anything else which is actually making or creating a problem? Is there like if you use a motorbike or you use a different kind of a tool to actually reach your office, the weather is actually supportive or not. So these kind of analytical thinking actually gives you, there you try to break down your problem into further different smaller parts, and then you try to understand that yes, I do have those kind of like solutions. So then you can start actually picking up the solutions for each smaller or bigger problem, and then you try to see that okay, this analysis is called the important part. So wherever you try to break down your financial data in or that complex financial data into small understandable parts. So I'll give you a very relevant like example for this. So for example, in some scenarios where you exactly see that if your profitability is declining and you are actually going away from your financial targets. So in that case, if you can start dividing that problem into smaller problems or smaller set of data. So for example, you can start thinking that, okay, why it is actually happening? The revenue is actually same. So you actually look into the revenue first and you see that no, revenue is fine, but I think there is some cost which is increasing. So you can actually see, okay, is this a seasonal factor? Or is this going to be like some other factors which are involved in actually improving or increasing the cost, which is reducing our profitability? So in that case, you might actually go one by one, but into smaller set of data, try to understand that what exactly is driving the short profitability in that period. So you try to think, oh, maybe you actually just spend a lot of money on the advertisement this month, or maybe your like raw material actually increases, or maybe just because of the geopolitical issues, maybe your fuel prices are actually increased, which is increasingly impacting your like overall cost. So all of these problems can actually have direct impact. I'm sorry. So this is first part. Now, the second part is you need to assess. Now, when I say assess, like evaluation, assessment, like I used to actually define these really critical words when I used to actually teach strategic business analysis subject as part of one of my favorite subjects, by the way. So assessing the reliability and relevance of the evidence. So this is really important. So you need to actually understand that does the evidence actually is reliable? That means you need to actually go through the whole trial, the whole trail so of the audit. You might actually try to understand that what kind of evidences are there, and can you actually rely on those evidences? Are those evidences are really relevant or not? So in that case, you would actually see a lot will actually come into in front of you, and then you will try to understand the exact problem and you will evaluate the whole situation. Then we actually move to the interference part. So this is another important aspect to understand that drawing logical conclusions. So you try to draw some logical conclusions around that situation, and then you try to see that yes, it is happening or not. If it is happening, then you try to actually understand that yes, this problem can be resolved with this solution or not. Now, professionally, if you have that mindset that you actually can question, then that means you really, like you have that mind which can actually create the problems. Created problems can be resolved with that questioning mindset. So this is really important that your critical assessment of those audit evidences, those like aspects of the financial data, there, if you can start questioning it with the proper professional like mindset, so in that case it will actually help you. So you can actually see a small joke on the right side. So you can actually see what is happening here. So uh, one, like a small, I would say, animal is asking the other one. People believe whatever they are told, or which is really, of course, the people they believe that whatever they are told. So the other one is saying, "Come on, that's not true." So you are not a person you would actually say that. Oh, dang, you're exactly right. So when you finally apply the critical thinking to the overall spreadsheet, then you try to understand what kind of picture is actually coming up. I think there's some error in my. I tried to actually embed the video here. A very interesting one. I'll try to connect that, by the way. Um, Now, why accountants, by the way? Why they need this kind of critical thinking, by the way? So this is really important to understand that the overall evolution of our profession, that how it actually being evolved from one aspect. So I'll give you a real life example. I used to have very close one of our family friends, very old guy. So he used to work for a government organization back in probably early 2000s when I started my studying my accountancy. At that time, so once I was actually sitting next to him, so we were having a discussion, and he was actually telling me that okay, this is called debit, this is called credit, and so many different things, like, and we were having a very basic discussion. So I came to know that he never actually studied accounting, but he started from a very scratch, from very basic level of work, and then he gradually stepped up. So in that case, what happened is then he was far better than like than me as an accountant when it comes to like doing the things through a proper ledgers, like the physical ledgers. They used to write the entries onto the ledgers at that time. So that used to be the historical like compliance level where a lot of people used to do the data entry onto the ledgers, and things used to be very different at that time. So from that level, you actually see the accountant being evolved from that level, or this profession has completely being evolved from that level to a strategic advisor. Not just an accountant, by the way. We are actually the strategic advisor. So why it actually is there? Because there are many important factors which are driving this important change. And this change is not only just coming from one aspect. I still remember those times from the early 2000s that a lot of people used to say, it's important to understand and it's important to learn that how to use Oracle financials. It's important to understand how to use SAP. You need to go through these things, and it's really important to understand that how the spreadsheet actually works. So you need to learn how to use the Excel. But look at right now, I don't know how many of these accountants are actually, or one of us is actually using that level of like these tools within his profession. This is being changed now. So things are driven by mostly automation, AI, which is really, like defining the routine, redefining the whole picture of the accountancy overall, which includes the routine bookkeeping is now becoming really, like quick. So no need to go for the bank reconciliations, the hefty or really, like hectic kind of task used to be there. Now your bank is actually linked, your statements is linked to your software. Quick reconciliation can be done, and really complex environments where you have these global markets, all these like important regulations which require a lot of professional judgment. So all these things are pretty much really like driving the force that you need to start thinking from one side, not just being an accountant. Of course, become a strategic advisor for your organization. And this is really important, another important aspect, which is the client expectation, of course. So the whole clients, like the business actually is driven by the clients, right? The business is driven by the profitability. Business is driven by the, like overall goals and structure and growth. So in that case, if the client expectations are pretty much really different, no one can actually do anything honestly. So in that case, the expectations actually drive that the accountant becomes a strategic advisor. So before we jump into this, I would love to actually connect my one of my let me just okay, I think it's fine. So um, I can actually just probably just use the YouTube. One second. Right. Sorry. One second. Yeah, there we go. So I'm just kind of reconnecting. So let me know if you can actually hear the sound.
Father, 94 years old. And on Tuesday, last Tuesday, I took him to a new doctor for the first time, which I
So just confirm me if you can actually you guys can hear this, right? I want to see this. Yes, that's perfect. That's perfect. So I'm just gonna start it again. It's a very short video, very interesting.
Tuesday, I took him to a new doctor for the first time, which I've had to do a lot lately because he keeps outliving all the old doctors. And when you're 94 and you see a new doctor, before the physical exam, the doctor just asks some questions to see how the patient's doing mentally because some 94-year-olds start to slip. But not my father. My father's a retired accountant and he is as sharp as ever. Now, I know doctors are smart, but doctors are like science smart. My father's a retired accountant, he's accounting smart, and there's a difference. So the first question the doctor asked my father, he said, if you had $1 and you took away 35 cents, how much would you have left? My father said, if I had $1 and I took away 35 cents, I would still have $1. Because I'm the one who took away the 35 cents. Count one, Dr. Zero.
So this is really important. So accountants, like we have the capacity where we kind of like do things in a very, very different way. So this is why accountants always win. So somebody was actually talking to me like a few days ago, and we were having a discussion about how this profession has been actually changing. There was a time when IT related people used to say that, oh, I have to be all the time, like I have to study, I have to understand, the laws are changing, updates are coming. And I used to be, okay, what else we have to do? We know how to do the debit and credit, so it's enough for us. But now this is not the case anymore. So things are literally changing, and especially in the environment where we live in, Gulf states, they are actually going through a lot of changes in terms of laws, rules, regulations, which are actually making it really cool to be in this environment for us being an accountant. Like, but of course, the challenge is that we have to learn things. We have to learn new things, and especially in UAE, if you know, and everybody is actually being exposed to the corporate tax now. A lot of things are actually coming in. So there we have this situation. So this is really important to understand. Being an accountant, things have actually moved and changed from one part to another. Now we are not just an accountant, we are the strategic advisor. Anyways, moving on. I think I have a small question. One second. Let me just so I have a question. Let me just quickly answer that on the alongside. In terms of critical thinking, these four core components will do support making some relevant and efficient decisions. My question is that how AI will impact for this process, and which core component will be affected mostly? It's really important question. I think it's really important and really relevant. Thank you so much for asking this question. I think. In my perspective, I think these four core components, the one which we were actually discussing in our first slide, a lot of work can be done really quickly by AI. I personally, like believe. So, for example, when it comes to the analysis and evaluation, that's something which can be done really quickly by these AI tools, by the way. So putting up all the financial data into the system and then actually driving all the or asking for the analysis quickly coming out of it, that actually gives a quick analysis and evaluation. And I think the time actually being saved through these tools is really, really, like what we say, uh, really important. And I think the time you are actually saving from these things can be invested into something else. But when it comes to the professional, questioning mindset, that actually is within you. It's your perspective being an accountant. It's your perspective being a strategic advisor, that how you actually perceive that situation, how you perceive that evaluation and analysis. So in that case, I personally believe that most of the analytical part can be done by the AI, and it would definitely have some impact onto that level. But eventually, still, I believe that the professional questioning and all those things can be still be with us being an accountant, and that there we need to spend more and more time to drive more and more situations and solutions for to this situation. But when it comes to very standard problems and solutions, AI might actually give you that, but eventually it will not actually come to us, it's something which can be done right by the AI much more efficiently. So I have another question actually, that what is the difference between the evidence-based decision and the database decision? Look, I'll be honest with you that both things can actually somehow can actually kind of relate in one sense, but the evidences are generated, like on different levels, maybe with a smaller set of data, maybe with a smaller, set of portion of data. So that evidence can actually just give us like a base to actually make some decisions. But when it comes to the database decisions, which means you actually collect high set of data and you try to actually just accumulate data, try to actually just make some analytics out of it, and then you can actually do the analysis. I was having a discussion with one of the mathematicians, by the way. Initially, like few years ago, he was one of the very earlier AI or machine learning specialists in UAE. So I was having a discussion with him. So he was actually telling me that they are much better accountants than us. Why? Because they have they know how to use the data to make the decision. So I'll give you an example. In some of the, for example, in the shipping line, if you have like a data of your ship movements of like 2 years or 3 years, so within the tools you can actually quickly decide and define that which ships to be used for which route, and that can actually do or create more efficiency in terms of the logistics part. But in that case, you need to use and you need to know how to actually use the data. You need to know how to use those tools and techniques to actually come up with the decision. But on the other hand, if the evidences you generate by actually applying your professional knowledge and you try to generate some evidences around one problem, that can actually help you to resolve one problem at a time. But for the databases where we can actually have different level of aspects, different level of like results, so it actually helps us on a very different scale. I hope I've answered the question. Wonderful. So let's just jump into the next slide. What are the Yeah. So, what are the common, cognitive biases when it comes to in accounting? The first one is the anchoring. Now, when I say anchoring, what exactly is the anchoring? So relying too heavily on the first piece of information offered. So for example, if you get like first small piece of information and you immediately rely on it, that actually does not actually creates a very good impression, right? Being an accountant, it's our job to collect more and more information. So this is called anchoring, that in the first base. So for example, if you get a last year's budget of 2025 as the unquestioned baseline for this year's forecast. Should it be? No, it should not be, honestly. The last year's budget is last year budget. We had different situation at that time. We had different scenario at that time. We have different environment at that time. Maybe a lot has changed since then. So why we should be actually using that to forecast 2026? Of course, we will not do that. That's the problem. Now, the second part is, and a lot of accountants, by the way, sometimes do that, which is not a good case, honestly. So even the most objective accountants, sometimes they are actually really prompt to actually these mental shortcuts. What they do is they try to actually just quickly just go around. They try to avoid the situation by actually just using the first piece of information as the baseline for creating or making the decisions for the future, which is not a good case. The second aspect is the confirmation. Now, when I say confirmation, which means searching for the interpretation, interpreting and favoring the information that confirms the pre-existing beliefs. If we have some beliefs from the previous norms, previous experiences, so that actually comes as a bias. So, for example, if you only try to look at the data that supports the management optimistic revenue projections, right? I'll give you an example. So, for example, if the senior management says, we're going to have a very aggressive year, we're going to actually increase the revenue by 60% this year. Great. That is there. But is that a kind of a realistic one? So being an accountant, you would say, "Oh, okay, I'll support the numbers. What I'm going to do is basically, okay, let's start by actually increasing the like revenue from line number one. This revenue will be increased within this product or this service or this sector." No, it should not be like this. You're not making the actual decision based on the evidences, based on the data available. That means you're just actually supporting the optimism of your, of your management. This is not going to work. The third, but actually applies to a lot of organizations when it comes to especially the SME side, that is the status quo bias. Now, what happens is preferring things to stay the same by doing nothing or sticking with the previous decision. This is what happens, especially in the SMEs or those who are actually driven by the entrepreneur. So what they actually do is being an entrepreneur, I actually know how does it actually fits. So I will be more of a, like telling my staff, my team that, look, this is something which I know. This is much better. I've experienced it. Let's just apply this same level of, like knowledge or same level of, like let's do the same decision. That means if you continue to use the same experience, if you continue to use the same level of stuff or resources or anything which you actually believe is actually good, that is not going to work. This is not going to work at all. If you believe that this is what we know and this is the best we know and this is the what we are going to actually keep on doing, that means you are status quo bias. So this is something really important to understand. And for that, I have a very quick, another short video for you guys. Let me just quickly just bring it back. By the way, I'm really bad in, sorry, IT. So I really apologize for that. Let me just quickly, this is why I stop and then bring it back. There we go. So we have it. So guys, let me know if, I'm sure you guys can actually hear this.
Hello again. In this next video on behavioral biases, I'm going to talk about mental accounting. Now, mental accounting is how we divide our money up into separate buckets and have different emotions or make different financial decisions based on where that money is and how we perceive it. For example, let's say you win £100 and you're more likely to see that as free money and treat yourself with it compared to £100 that you get in your paycheck. We've accounted for them differently. One's free money, one's earned money, but actually at the end of the day, it's still £100. And we do this in lots of different ways. It might be that we see our pension funds when we get to retirement as something that needs to provide us with income because that is what your pension is designed to do. While at the same time, we have lots of money that we've built up in savings that we don't want to touch as much because we've built that up and it's in our savings pot. And the point of savings is to save for the future. Whereas it might be more efficient to look at the two together and have a income plan that is making the most of your money and paying as little tax as possible. We also might do it by having lots of money in savings, but at the same time carrying lots of credit card debt, which we're not paying off, even though it'll be much cheaper for us to use some of that savings that is earning a lower interest to pay off debt that we're paying a high level of interest off. Or it might be that we have money set aside for a holiday fund, which has shown some good planning, but we worry about our monthly outgoings, which we're struggling to maintain due to the resources that we have. And the reason why we do this is because money is fungible. That means £1 or £100 is exactly the same. It doesn't matter where it comes from, it's exactly the same value. And we do make this accounting because it helps us in our brains to compute what we have and where and why, and we attach different meaning to these different pots because it helps us to account for where it's come from. Another good example might be an inheritance we've received that we've got from our parents. Now, often I hear clients understandably say, well, we don't want to use this money or waste it because it was mum and dad's money. Understandable, but when you look at it in the total of your pot, it's still an amount of money same as any other source of that money might have been. So a way to overcome this mental accounting is again to have a plan for our money and look at our money as a whole and not divide it up into these individual pots. So we're trying to use all the wealth that we can as efficiently as possible. So it's sustainable, paying as little tax on it, and we're taking the right degree of risk with all our different pots as a part of a bigger plan. So that's a brief video on mental accounting. The next one I will look at is availability bias. I hope you like this video. If you
Great. Let me just switch back. Right. So there we go. So what happens is the evidence-based decision-making framework. So I've tried to actually bring like everything on one slide, so that we can understand that what exactly happens that if we have the structured like kind of approach to make the objective but definable like the financial decision when it comes to the like being an accountant in an organization, making sure that okay we are making the right decision. So in that case, what happens is it actually starts from first thing first, which is defining the problem. Sometimes we actually focus on one side of the problem, but we are not actually entirely focusing on one important aspect, and we might be actually missing the like the other side of the picture. So what happens is that in this important aspect, you come and you try to identify the right problem actually, and that is basically defining the problem. Number one. Number two is gather the evidence. This is really important that when you start gathering the evidences around your problem, then you start understanding what is happening. So it can be anything. For example, market information, historical records, historical data, last year's actuals, previous year's, like 5 years financial data. What is the trend analysis? What are the, like maybe ratios? Like so all these evidences come together and you try to actually gather those around the exact same problem which you define. Then you evaluate the evidence. And then once it is done, the validity checks are done, everything is done. Then after that, you start formulating the options. So start developing different types of solutions. So I'll give you many actually just, like solutions or maybe, like examples, real world. So I'll tell you what, being an accountant, being into all these things, what I've learned is basically you try to actually focus on jumping onto the results, but you try to actually not focus on the actual problem, actual definition of the problem. So I'll give you an example. So if an organization actually wants to actually grow, yes, and but they're not actually just meeting their targets. So probably they're not actually focusing enough on the current position analysis. So the current position analysis actually requires focusing on so many different aspects. So for example, I would actually say use the value chain analysis to do that. You might actually focus on the pestle analysis, political, economic, social, technological, environmental, legal. You might actually focus on the Porter's five forces. You try to actually use those tools and techniques to do the current position analysis and then move yourself onto a next level, which is where you start defining different choices for yourself. When you start defining different choices, which means like bringing up the solutions. So, for example, I might actually opt to go to the other market. I might actually say that, okay, new market entry is really important for us. Or you might actually say, let's try to open up another door, another product, add new product lines. You might actually say that product line is not important. Let's focus on cutting the, like cost. Let's focus on restructuring the overall organization. So all these are different solutions, different, like choices. Now, you start analyzing each and every single choice out of it, and you then start implementing that choice in a way that you start, like focusing that, yes, now this has been implemented. For example, if you say that, yes, going to a new market actually works. So let's implement that. You start focusing on the implementation part, and then you move to the next level, which is basically try to actually focus and follow up onto your implemented choice. Now, this was the actual framework. Let's focus on the real world problems. What are there? Yeah. So, a small joke on the right side. Like, yeah, if you could just stop reading about accounting and actually do some accounting, that'll be great. So basically, what happens is when you suggest updating the 10-year-old master spreadsheet, this is what actually comes in. Uh, always done in this way syndrome. This is what I actually said. This is something which actually takes away a lot of time. It takes away a lot of effort, and you do not actually focus that you might actually. And this is what I've seen within even our organization. In sometimes, what happens is you focus on one aspect and saying that this is what we've been doing for the last 5 years. I'm not going to change myself. I'm not going to change the whole process. I'm not going to improve myself. I'm not going to improve my process. So this is what I've done. Or maybe you come with like this. So for example, a new person joins an organization. Sometimes I hear the first thing, like from his side is, this is what I used to do in my organization. Okay, that'd be good. Let's try to analyze this. Is this the right way to do the things? Is this the right way to like improve the things? So if yes, then bring it. Otherwise, don't just like waste your time by just saying that this has always been done like this. So that's the common trap. So let's just prevent this and let's just focus on improvements, right? So what happens is basically, what is going to be the solution? I'll just quickly just like bring you to this side of like questioning the assumptions. How to apply the critical thinking to challenge the status quo in the accounting processes. So number one, let's identify the assumptions. What are the assumptions? Okay, recognize when a process is driven by habit rather than logic. Listen for phrases like, we have always done it this way. If you actually hear this phrase a lot within the organization, that means, yeah, there are assumptions being created. There are assumptions being generated overall. So that is not going to actually work for you. That is not actually going to work for yourself. So in that case, this is a very dangerous way. So as Grace Hopper actually said that the most dangerous phrase in the language is, we have always done in this way. That means you do not have a portion, you do not have a space or flexibility to improve your stuff. So you're not actually focusing on doing that. So let's just say you move to the next level and start asking, use the five whys. That's the technique. Now, to drill down the root cause of the process, determine if original reason is still valid today. That actually comes to this level. And then we move to the next one, gather the evidence and propose the alternatives. gathering the right level of evidences for my job, for my position, for my area is really going to be critical. And then we move to the alternatives, and then we start digging up the alternatives. And this is how we try to avoid this situation. Another important aspect, the pressure to meet targets. Everyone does that, right? So what happens is basically, uh, Mr. MD, yeah, well, we will definitely you'll be provided with all these slides, like through the IFA side. I'll share these with the IFA team, and they will definitely share those. So what happens is the pressure to meet the targets. That's another important aspect. So what happens is that if you have seen this happening on the right side of the picture, that's a clear actually indication that how things actually move on and work. So, sorry. I have done 10% of each of my 10 tasks. So your brain would actually tell you that. That's 100%. Will be any consequences if you stop now? And you say, yes. But then your brain again tell you, call it, finish it, stop here. Don't actually move forward. That's enough for today. That means you're not actually focusing on one thing. The pressure of the targets actually makes your brain stop. So in that case, the aggressive revenue recognition, expense deferral, navigation of your gray areas, all these kind of important things actually brings together, and the management might actually push you for the results. They might actually push you forward and they tell you that, okay, this is what you have to achieve. And the results has to be appear very, very stronger in that case. But the accountants are accountants, right? So we must remain accurate. We must remain objective. We must remain, focused and really composed when it comes to, like doing our stuff. We are people with the responsibility. We are people with the responsibility of the financial aspects of the company. So yeah. Now, the how you actually avoid this situation. What happens is that first focus would be professionally, but you can actually trust, but you need to verify. You need to actually go into the whole, situation within the situation. So you need to always ask for the underlying source documents. If you feel that the overall objective evidence gathering actually focuses on this thing, so you need to actually start focusing on this part. But again, moving to the second part is going to be like data-driven defense. So you need to come up with the counter pressure when he's okay, somebody actually tells you, oh, you have to do this. Okay, let's just step back for 1 second. Let's try to actually redefine the situation. Let's try to actually come up with the data. Let me just focus. Let me tell you that based on the data, based on the facts, based on this, let's alter the forecast. Let's alter this situation. Let's alter the targets for the future. Let's alter this. So all of these situations might actually help your organization, maybe HR, maybe sales, maybe marketing, maybe other department, maybe HR. All of these people will be really happy to see that your accountants and the accounting team is actually doing the right level of job. So the third focus will be, of course, or should be the documentation part. You need to maintain very, very clear documentation, clear audit trails, clear stuff, like estimates, clear judgments has to be there when you are actually doing all these things. Yeah, we are accountants. And yeah, when the ERP system generates 500-page report for a simple variance analysis, so the accountants actually comes to this picture on the right side. Absolutely true, right? What my wife actually thinks I do. Yeah, like I just sit back and relax and put my feet up on the table, right? And maybe all the time on the Facebook. What my parents think I do. I am actually stuck with all these tax related matters. I'm the one actually doing all the major reports, right? What my kids think I do. I'm an astronaut, right? What my friends think I do. And then what I think I do is actually having the whole screens focusing on the analytics, analysis, and stuff. But yeah, actually, what I do is, yeah, relax, right? Sometimes, but not as always. So the ERP actually, the information overload in this world is another important problem. You do not actually focus on the right level of aspect, and you try to move around. And this is something which actually becomes a trouble. The modern systems, which are the ERPs, many names are there, right? And the big data generative, they actually generate massive databases, massive data sets. And the accountants sometimes struggle to actually process the whole volume of complex information. And then in that case, it becomes really, like a trouble set of information for us. So what we do is basically, let's just say that analysis paralysis. What happens is you actually paralyze in terms of analysis or analytical situation, having so much of data that brings down to that you cannot even project the right numbers. You will actually delay the reporting cycle. All of these situations. Then there is a term called signal versus noise. There is always going to be a huge difficulty, like when it comes to like to actually just pull out or carve out the right financial or critical financial indicators from the overall data sets, which is the actual signal. But you're going to have so much of irrelevant information within that, within your system, within in front of you on your screen. And that is called the noise. So you have to be clear about the signals versus noise. So take away all the noise out of it, focus on the signals, and you'll see the clear picture or clear financial picture. The time constraints, spending 90% of the time in gathering the like information, formatting the data, leaving only just 10% out of it to focus on the critical thinking. So we need to actually just come up with the right level of information so that you can focus, or you can actually focus on more on your right type of analysis. So I've done this already. So these are few recommended videos. Once the slides actually come to you, you can actually go through these. Really, really important, by the way, helped a lot for me to actually improve, like the critical thinking aspect. So there are like 5 tips to improve your critical thinking. Yeah, a TEDx talk. So then we have cognitive biases, the psychology of decision making. You can actually learn a lot of things from there. Professional skepticism in accounting and auditing. That is also going to be a very, very relevant video for you guys. So how we can actually build culture? Of course, it is really important for the HR professionals and also the accountants in terms of developing a pure culture of diversity, pure culture of thinking, critical thinking. Encourage questions, ask your team members to ask questions, ask your team members to, like develop questions for you. Diverse perspectives. Always avoid like group thinking by different, like bringing different roles. For example, into the financial discussions, you need to have different point of views, right? In front of you so that you can understand that what is happening, what is the point of view of other people, right? The objective post mortems. In that case, what you have to do is you need to focus on the right level of information, always analyze both, just not just the failures. Of course, the successes are also there, right? So let's just objectively focus on these things. And what went wrong has to be the focus in the whole process, and not who is to be blamed for. We do not want to focus on blaming, like people, but let's focus on one thing, that what actually went wrong. So, and the fourth and not the least, I'll tell you what, the last but not the least, that is going to be the continuous training. So, what is the takeaway? The critical takeaways are critical thinking elevates accountants from compliance processors to actual strategic advisors. The second focus is recognize and actively mitigate cognitive biases like anchoring and confirmation biases. Apply the evidence-based framework to make objective, defensible financial decisions. Foster a team culture that rewards questioning assumptions and values diverse perspectives. Great. So that's it for today. I can see there are some questions. I would love to actually answer those questions if there are any. Don't actually just consider me a very professional guy for this topic, but yeah, like I would love to actually just uh, answer this. Great. Use the chat box to ask the questions. For those who actually raise their hands, you will not be able to actually given the opportunity to talk, but you can still write for the question. Am I still audible? Wonderful. I thought that I just got frozen. So, great. Thank you so much. I think there are a few things which I would try to highlight right away. I have another session to jump in, but thank you so much for everyone for joining. We have few more sessions coming up, more focused on the accounting side. We have the reporting sessions coming up. Some of the IFRS related trainings are coming up. Thank you so much once again for joining. Please do not forget to collect your, like request for your attendance certificate. Still, if you have any question, please feel free to actually connect with me. I'm gonna leave my contact details here with my email address. Oh, sorry. Just please ignore the wonderful. Thank you so much, everyone. Take care. Have a nice day and enjoy your weekend. Take care.